What made you choose this particular fairy tale and format?
I didn't think there were that many Goldilocks stories out there, so I thought it'd be pretty easy to subvert it without stealing someone else's already made idea.
What is the main theme or moral of your story? How have you shown this?
The moral of my story is that you should never take things for granted. Goldie took her family for granted, and then she lost them, and she had to go through the struggle of learning how to deal with losing her family, and there were some challenges there.
What dominant ideology have you subverted? What specific changes did you make to your fairy tale to make this happen?
In the original Goldilocks, the bear's family was very normal, but in my story, all the families aren't normal. They're all like foster families.
What is your social message or theme explored through your fairy tale?
That you should never take things for granted because you can lose them in an instant.
Who is your target audience? How have you designed your project with this in mind?
This book is directed toward teens and adults because of some of the more mature subjects, such as death and abuse, which comes into play here.
Tell me about the choices you made regarding use of text and images. How did you decide when to use text and when to use pictures?
I use text and pictures on all the pages. So I would place the pictures anywhere the text wasn't. So I would rearrange the text into different areas so that it wasn't all the same. In all these. So there's some of the text is on the side, some's on the bottom, some's on the top. Yeah.
Nice. Explain which elements of art and design you use throughout your project. Provide examples for each.
I did black and white for the most part, but I would do certain aspects of the picture in color, like her lips and her eyes, or the flowers off to the side here. All that's in color. And then just the shirts, simple bracelets and nails, and just like the water and the sun, but none of the actual person. I would use movement. The birds are moving. And I would do different perspectives. Like this is Maya's perspective, and then this here is Maya's perspective as well, of her finding out about the bruises.
Which point of view is the story told from? How did you show this through the images?
The story is told from Goldilocks. It's her telling her story over the course of the year. Like she goes back and says what happened in her last year. So it's all in her words. Yeah, it's used in first person.
How have you framed the images or used camera angles in your project?
I framed them by just using the text surrounding them. Like one text is one half, images the other, like that.
And tell me about your cover and how does it relate to your story?
I did the cover with flowers just to symbolize innocence, because throughout the whole thing, Goldie was innocent. She did take things for granted and she was a bit of a brat in her past, but she learned to overcome that.
Use some narrative devices.
In this book, I used suspense because Goldie, when she was trying to hide her secret from Maya so she wouldn't be placed back into a group home and be separated from Maya. I also used flashbacks in a way because this is Goldie telling her story from the future. Yeah.
Tell me about your chosen settings. How did you create mood in your story?
I don't have any specific settings. I have plenty of different settings. I guess the main setting would be the beach scene, when Maya finds out about the bruise. That's set at the beach. Yeah.
How have you indicated sound?
It wasn't necessary for me to really have any sound. The only sound I really use is my yelling at Goldie to stop, but otherwise my story didn't really require sound.
And how have you indicated emotion? How have you indicated emotion?
I indicated emotions through the pictures. It's clear here that graveyard equal sad because graves are sad. I did like this picture perfect kind of house where she was happy about this. Obviously hugging her best friend. That's happy again with the hands holding. This is a happy setting for Maya loving to swim and going to the beach. Goldie was having a very relaxing time here. Her got away from her. She was having just so much fun. But then it starts to get worse. Emotions start to change. It gets dark here with the bruises, and then there goes into jail cell and police lights, which are darker emotions, and then it just kind of ends there. It's not perfect, but it's not the worst in the end. So.
And tell me about your choice of transitions between panels, scenes, or pages. How did you guide your reader to the next page?
Some of these, there weren't really many ways you could. Like here, I had no idea how I could transition. It's just a picture of Goldie. But here, I put in some simple flowers just to indicate turn to the next page. There's a simple path here leading off to the house. Again, here, there isn't any distinct ways to change that, to direct. I mean, here, the hands are somewhat angling down, so that could mean you should change page. But there aren't that many other ways I could have done it. So I didn't do it for all the pages, but.
And explain your use of archetypes. How did you use or challenge them in your story?
I used the archetype of innocence because throughout the whole story, Goldie was innocent. She never did anything extremely wrong. She was abused. She lost her family, and through the whole thing, she was just innocent.